Hello, it's Dawn Michelle and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you some of the recent deck mods that I've done, and actually there's quite a few here now that I see the pile of decks on my desk. Some of these are like really recent, as in I finished today, and some of them are ones that I did, a month or so ago, and I have one that it's actually still in process. So today I thought I would just share with you kind of what I've been doing in this sort of deck mod area of things over the last month or two. I really haven't had the opportunity to do any mod with me's just because it takes a lot of time to modify a deck on camera, and sometimes I just want to sit and watch YouTube or Doctor Who or something while I edge my decks or do trims and things like that. So I apologize for not having a mod with me video, but judging by the response, I'm guessing that most of you are just cut to the chase anyway and just show me what you've done. So if that's you, then you're gonna love this video, because that's all this is me going, here's what I did to my decks. So let's go ahead and start with the Tarot of Tales. A few of these decks are decks that I'm actually working with this month, so you'll be seeing them again when I do my sort of deck review at the end of the month. So the Tarot of Tales is a fairly new deck in my collection. I think it's one that's been seen kind of around the tarot tube sphere quite a bit. I have some concerns with some of the cards, but that's not really the point of this video, and I will try to stay on topic and not get distracted talking about the individual cards and decks, because sometimes that happens. I'm really bad about that in member videos. Anyway, this deck, I decided that I wanted to edge it. Now, I have seen a lot of people who have trimmed it down. They've trimmed the black border, but I really don't mind the black border. And the backs really don't bother me that much either. So I thought it looked fine, but I wanted to actually edge it in black. I'm hoping that the light is okay for this. I don't usually record at this time of day, but the light should be pretty good for giving you a fairly accurate representation of the colors on the decks. So what I did with this one is I edged it in a single coat of Tombow black, just like one of these little water-based brush markers. I do not use alcohol-based markers because they give me terrible migraines and they really, really bother my allergies. So for the most part, you're never going to see me edge a deck in a Sharpie or an alcohol marker. Sometimes I use archival ink like I have here. I use a lot of Tim Holtz distressed ink. I have whole videos on the tools that I tend to use and things like that. So today I'm gonna just kind of try to stay focused and just talk about what I did to these decks. So I did a fairly quick light coat of the Tombow black, and the reason that I did it pretty light and pretty quick was because I wanted it to not completely cover. So I don't know if it'll pick up on camera, but I edged the whole thing in black, and then I went through and basically clumped my deck up and rubbed really, I'm just is it coming off? It's not. I rubbed distressed ink in the tea dye over the top of it so that anywhere that the white of the card was showing through would then become that tea dye color. You can see here on this side, this side came out better for whatever reason, where that tea dye is just really coming through nicely through where the Tombow didn't quite adhere. The other thing that I did, so when you block a deck up and just run color over the top of it, it is going to bleed between the cards, and it doesn't really matter what kind of an ink you're using, it's gonna bleed, right? I've never had an instance where I've done that and it's not bled. So normally when I do that, the first thing I do after I've done the whole deck is take a paper towel and I go around and I wipe all of the cards down, because in general, I don't like the overflow onto my cards, but occasionally I do that on purpose, and I did it with this deck. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but I will certainly try. You can see places where the distress ink seeped through the cards, and then what I did do was just kind of quickly run a paper towel over the top, because it was also seeping in around here. Now it's black on the top, so you probably wouldn't have been able to see it, but I didn't want a bunch of clumped up, because I just left them stacked. I didn't want a bunch of clumped up ink spots. I wanted it to be kind of that smeared look. And so that is definitely what I got on the back side. It just kind of gives it a little bit of a vintage feel. So I can't really remember when I edged these decks, so I'm just gonna start kind of grabbing at random. This is my Trionfi della Luna illustrated. And I cannot remember if I showed this publicly or just in a member video, but I did end up edging it. So this is a case where this is part of my bonding process with the deck. If you saw my deck declutter, I talked about how like this deck has been in purgatory for a really long time. And I was just like, I don't know if it's for me. Like, I just don't know. But then when I was looking through it again, I was like, well, maybe I need to like give it a try now that I'm in a sort of different mind frame than when I originally received it. Part of that bonding process for me is edging the deck. And this one, I usually match the backs, but I wanted to pick up that kind of like grungy, gritty gray color that we see in this deck. So that's kind of what I chose for the sides, was just kind of like a sort of steel gray. Again, I just did a single coat of Tombow so that it wouldn't completely saturate. I'm kind of into the vintage thing right now in terms of like my edging, or just that worn look. I guess it's not really so much vintage as it is like worn. So I've just been doing a lot of single coats and just kind of letting it just cover it, but not be completely saturated. So I also, of course, made it a bag because that is also a lot of the times part of my bonding process. I still need to like do some work with this deck, but like that was step one, was edging it. Another deck that I recently edged and that I am working with this month is the Arthur Rackham Tarot, and this is a deck that, again, I just did a single coat of Tombow, so I don't know if it'll pick up on camera, but on most decks, if you do a single coat of color, you are going to get where it doesn't quite fill in, it doesn't quite saturate it, so it gives it that almost like distress look, and I think that's really cool for decks like this. I feel like it works really well. My deck is completely upside down. Except for that one card. How funny is that? Anyway, I feel like the sort of distressed, kind of worn, aged look works really well with decks like these. Sometimes I do try to like really saturate it to get it like full color, but these days I don't know. Part of it is I like the look and part of it is I can't be bothered. Like, I just want it edged. I don't really want to sit and spend hours and hours and hours on a deck mod. That being said, the next deck that I'm going to grab is actually a deck that I did spend hours and hours and hours on because not only did I trim this is the Beautiful Creatures Tarot. It had really, really shiny purple gilding, which hurt my hands. So I de-gilded it, which basically means I just took off just a sliver of it. And I've done videos on how I de-gild decks, which is basically, I just trim it, like I micro trim. I just snip that gilding off and then I recolor. I know a lot of people who actually will sand the gilding off, but I have neither the time nor the patience to do that. So I just cut it and then I re-edge it. And this one I just did in the purple to match the backs. Usually when I'm edging a deck, it's like because I want to pick out an accent color from the back. So this one is just de-gilded. And the reason I say that this one actually was an investment was because this is actually the second copy, because the first one I ruined trimming it. And if you're in my membership, you got to see that whole experience and that hot mess that I did. But this is the second version that I was able to purchase and then actually trim in the way that I really, really wanted. So another deck that I'm working with this month is the Tarot at the End of the Rainbow. Okay, well, I could only find one, but this deck basically had little titles just down at the bottom like this, and they were fine. They were fine. Nothing wrong with them. It's a low Scarabeo deck, and they are no longer doing the multiple language thing because so many of us probably have complained about it, but what they've gone to is this weird clip art symbol thing, and I just can't. It drives my designer brain crazy. And so there's little symbols for each of them. The majors are fine because they just have Roman numerals, but when we get to the minors, we have symbols for the suit, and then for the numbers, we just have numbers, but then when we get to the quartz, there's another symbol over there, and it just feels like two clip art things just plunk down on the card, and I just can't. It just bugs me. So what I did is just chop the bottom, that's all, chop the bottom off. I say that's all, but I actually did quite a bit to this deck. Before I did that, I went through and very, hopefully discreetly, took a gold tip Sharpie. This is the only way that I will use Sharpie because it's It's very, very minor. And I just put a number for the numbered minors somewhere on the card. And I don't even know if it'll pick up on camera. Like here's the 7. Sometimes I have to like kind of turn it into the light. Oh, there's the VI for the lovers. So the 6. There's the world card. And let me get to some more of the minors. Like there's a 3 there. So I tried to kind of mix it in with the art. The thing though, with this cardstock and with a gold Sharpie, with an eraser, you can just actually erase it. So there were a couple of them that I wrote it on here and I was like, oh, I don't like where that is. So I just took my white eraser, erased it, and wrote it somewhere else. So point being, when like there's the key, the K for the king. So I know that's like that's a sword card. So there's the K for the king. Here's the P for the page of swords. And that's just how I titled them. I did a KN for a knight, a Q for a queen, P for a page, and K for a king. And then the numbers are just worked in here. So here's the 9. So point being, when I get comfortable with this deck and I don't feel like I really need any numbers, the Sharpie will either eventually wear off, because most of the time that I've written on cards, with enough wear and use, the Sharpie just wears itself off. Like it's really not permanent on cardstock that I have found. But if I get to the point where I'm like, yeah, I know this deck well enough, I don't need the numbers, then I can just use my eraser and erase them. The other thing that I did is I re-rounded all the corners using the large corner rounder. So these decks typically have a small corner on them. So if you're using like one of these Katamaro Pros that have the 3 different sizes, like medium is what most decks, like most mass market, even most indie decks come, like that's the size it is, medium. I think I want to say that's like a 5mm, but I could be wrong. And the large, I like to use really whenever I get the opportunity to, because I don't feel like I do. A lot of times it's too big and it'll really soften up a card and make it like too round. But I felt like with this deck that would work really well. So I re-rounded the whole thing with the large, and then I edged it in rainbow colors. I have some pictures because I posted it in my member group, but I'll try to remember to pop them in here. I edged it in rainbow colored Tombow, and then I like smeared that Brilliance stamp over the top, the ink, the gold ink, to give it that shine. And then I just, again, very carefully went through and wiped off all the cards, because the Brilliance ink is really, really wet, and it definitely seeps through the cards. But here's what the backs ended up looking like, which I think are fine. Like it really doesn't bother me. But anyway, I really, really like it like this. Let's do a couple of my sort of like spiritual work decks that 2 of which I've kind of put off edging for quite some time. These are my Mysteries of Mary Tarot and the Black Madonna. This deck I've had for many, many years, and I just couldn't ever like decide on a color that I wanted, because like it's a very colorful deck, but it does have these kind of mustardy yellow borders and the mustardy yellow back. I almost did this like kind of parchmenty white color, but then I decided to just go for the yellow that sort of matched. It was as close as I could get. Just, I don't know. I don't usually like to do the whole side being the same as the front and the back, but sometimes it works for me. And I feel like this one with the yellow here and the wrap around to the yellow here just kind of works. Mostly because there's just so much color in this deck, and every card has a different background color, that I felt like if I did another color here, that it was gonna like kind of compete with it. I did, I think, a single coat of a Tombow yellow. I know I get a lot of questions about like what colors and stuff I use. I really did try to track it for a long time, but it's a lot of like, I do things kind of in the moment, and then I'll forget to like write it down, and then to try and go back and figure out, because I have a lot of markers, it's just not always feasible. So I probably won't put any notes in terms of color, but you can see what I did and you can probably get something that's fairly close. I'll at least tell you like what kind. Like this was a marker, it was a Tombow. This, my Black Madonna, was done in Brilliance ink stamp, the gold. to match the back. Now, generally with the gold stamps, I will do 2 coats so that it gets nice and covered. But again, I really wanted that kind of distressed, really worn look, because if you look at the back of the design, like it's distressed and worn. And so I felt like that worked really well. I really like the wet ink stamps as well. They take a little bit longer to do, but they tend to get better coverage, and there's a lot more forgiving. So they always smear on the front and back, but you can wipe them off. Like you just take the paper towel, go around the edges, wipe it off, and then you are left with just the color on the side. Because most of the time I get really irritated when my markers bleed. It's another reason why I don't use Sharpie, you know, besides the whole like migraine thing, because it bleeds. Every time I've ever tried a Sharpie, it bleeds. And I absolutely hate that, especially when I take the time to like trim a deck and then it bleeds all over my card, because usually when I'm trimming it, is because I want it borderless. So I finally did those 2, which is kind of like, I've been a little hesitant because I was like, oh, I really like need to be sure what color I want to do, because they're not like replaceable decks in my collection. So I wanted to be really, really sure about it. This is my Ritual Tarot, which I have edged in again, another Brilliance ink. This is I think it's called like Lightning Black or something like that, because it is black when you look at it kind of straight on, but if you turn it into the light, it's got a gold sheen. And again, it kind of has that like distressed look to it. I only did a single coat because I felt like with this back and then with the card fronts being like collage and a lot of it being sort of like vintage and kind of rustic and distressed looking. Like I keep using that same word, but I wanted that same kind of look. So I didn't completely fill it. Like I just did a quick swipe across each card. Again, I don't do these in one big block just because that's not my favorite. It makes a big mess, and unless I'm intending to make a big mess on my cards, I really try to avoid that when I can. So I just take the time to do it one at a time. But I love the way that one turned out. I think it's a perfect match for that deck. This is the Midnight Magic, and this is a new deck in my collection, and I edged it pretty much as soon as I got it. Again, this is another one that I edged in Tombow. And you can see, like, for the most part, like I kind of have a theme here in terms of like everything is just like one coat. I want it distressed. I want it kind of aged looking. The only thing that I think isn't in that category really is the Beautiful Creatures, because that one I did want like a pretty good saturation on that color. This is such a cool deck. I don't know why I'm looking at the cards. I get distracted by the art. But again, just using that brown, I went back and forth because, you know, black border here, black here, but I like to contrast most of the time. I don't want it to blend in. I want the back or the sides to pick out a contrast color. Again, I could have gone with something lighter, but I just felt like the dark brown worked really, really well. These are the little paper towels that I use. You can use any, but these are shop towels. I steal them out of my husband's garage. So whenever I'm working with any sort of wet or bleeding ink, I will always go around the card like this while it's still wet. Hopefully these are dry. Yeah, they're pretty dry. And that's how I get that excess off. This is, how funny that the one is on top. The Between the Worlds. So this little oracle deck, and this is again another one that I've been working with this month, and I had so much fun with this. Sometimes the little decks are like the most fun because like they're little and cute, and it's an oracle, so there's not quite as many as a tarot. So I feel like I have more time to do things with it. But I wanted to kind of match this sort of branchy, rusty sort of thing going on the back of the card, and we've got the distress around the edges. So this one was a stepped process. The first thing that I did was edge this in just a basic like cream colored Tombow just to get a base coat down here. And then I went over it again using that same, just take the distressed ink pad. So like if I had this and just kind of clumping them together and just running it along the top. And that kind of gets it with the distressed ink anyway, where it's gonna apply some color, but not everywhere because it's like a distress thing, right? Oh yeah, this is still kind of wet. That's okay. We're gonna roll with it. So I did that with a color that's like a honey color, and I rubbed that all across the all four sides. And then what I did was took the vintage photo in distress ink, and I did that just on the top and bottom because if you look at the card design on the back, like it's darker on the top and bottom, so I thought that would be cool. So I just kind of, and I did it, rounded it over the corners, like, and kind of blended it in a little bit. So that's kind of the look it gives it. This one's still kind of wet because I just did it, maybe just finished it like 2-3 hours ago. So in an instance like this, like I will let this sit out overnight and dry, and I need to really stop touching it. But like that was really fun. And I love that it's like darker on the bottom and the top. This is the Woodland Wardens. Now this deck, and I'll show you here the guidebook so you can see, I actually did trim it. I did not take it borderless. Sorry, the book was stuck in the box. So here is the book, which was pretty much the same size as the cards. So you can see I left the top and bottom. I didn't trim those off. But what I did do was take just a little bit off of each side. So you can see it's, I don't know how much that is, maybe 1/4 inch smaller. It's kind of a little bit more tarot size. Part of the reason that I did that was because the copy that I had was shifted over really far one way. And so I started with just trimming that one side in order to try to get the artwork more even. You know, it made the back more even too, I think, because this deck actually has really big borders for the size of the art. And I have seen a lot of people take it down borderless, and that's really cool too, but I had a different idea. So I just made the borders smaller. Again, I use the large corner rounder because it kind of softens up the imagery. The more round you get your deck, the kind of softer it gets. Although there is like a breaking point for me because I don't like round decks. So like rounded corners are fine. Round decks, not so much. So I trimmed it and then corner rounded it. And then I threw a very light, very haphazard kind of coat of just a kind of beigey Tombow, more towards the brown. Tombows always darken on the card, just so that you're aware if you're using those, like it's always darker than what you see it come out on paper. So I just did a really like kind of quick and dirty because again, I wanted that vintagey look. But the other thing that I did after that was I took some distressed ink, some Tombow distressed ink. Let me grab my thing so I can show you. And I just totally threw on my dog. So anyway, I have these. I use the little ones for edging most of the time. The bigger ones I use for like paper crafting. And then they have these little like stampy things. So you just kind of take it, you dip it in the stamp, and then you just brush it along, you know, the edges and whatnot. So I did that to like kind of tone down the creaminess of the borders. Now there was nothing wrong with the creaminess of the borders. I just wanted it again to look more distressed. So I faux distressed it with the distressed ink, which works really well. And you can see I didn't do it like everywhere. I was just kind of like ding, 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 ding all the way around the card. Do you like my sound effects? That was like super cool of me, right? Anyway, because like I'm the only person in the world that does not pair this with the Oak, Ash, and Thorn. So I don't need this deck to have like creamy whiter borders. The deck that I most often paired this with is the Hush Tarot, and so in that respect, like I feel like the really distressed kind of aged looking borders work really well on this deck and with that particular pairing, because like I said, I'm the only person in the world who doesn't pair it with the Oak, Ash, and Thorn. But this was a really fun one. So you can see here when I put it in the box, it's just like a little bit smaller, and that's really just because I kind of took those borders down a little bit and just straightened it up as best I could. Okay, let's do one more deck mod that is in process because I'm gonna ask y'all what you think. And then I wanna share a couple of other deck sort of art projects that I have been dipping in and out of. So this is the 5th tarot. I had the sort of plasticky edition of this deck, and I ended up rehoming that when the matte version came out. This is a really lovely like matte cardstock. Oh, you can see here because I haven't finished it. It had gold gilding on it though, which feels like that it doesn't match at all with this like electric yellow and purple on the back. So like the gilding was gonna go, but this deck had a lot of border, and if I have a picture, I will insert it. And so I found that the border, like all the border, I know there's significance to the border. Like don't get me wrong. Like there's a reason for it. There's symbols and all of that. It's a lot of that is listed in the little guidebook that comes with the new edition, but I also have the larger guidebook for this deck. So I don't really need all those symbols on the card. And I was just finding that all of that extra white space and all the border and the symbols and everything was just really distracting when I was using it in readings. And you can see, like, compared to the book, which the deck was the size of the book, like that's a lot of border that I took off. So it was probably like about that. So that means that the actual art on the card is like, it's really small. And it kind of makes me sad when deck creators do that, because like, no offense to this deck creator, because like, I think this is an amazing deck. I absolutely love the artwork, but I wish if it was going to be that oracle size, I wish that it would have been borderless. Just because this art is so beautiful and I would love to see it larger. I think the cardstock is great. It's this really nice, thin, flexible matte. But I just, the borders were so distracting when I was trying to do anything more than just a 2 or 3 card reading. So like I stacked it all back up and like divided it up back into its suits and, you know, the different titles and stuff, and was looking at it before I decided, you know, could I take it down completely borderless? I decided I definitely want to take it down borderless on 3 sides. And you'll see that I haven't trimmed the corners yet, because here's my conundrum. Do I leave the bottoms? If I leave the bottoms, then I can just like I mentioned with the other, I can just clip the gilding off, because there's definitely enough space for me to just like take like a millimeter, like this tiniest sliver, and it just gets rid of that gilding. But what I'm wondering is, should I take that off? Because I'm still not really a fan of all that's going on down here in terms of the coloration, and there's like a corner here that you can see. But the thing I do like about this deck is that, well, for one, it has an extra suit. So I don't know if without the titles, if I would really know that well what cards were. And I do like the keywords. I feel like the keywords work really well with this deck. And I don't really mind the stuff down at the bottom, I guess. But like, how beautiful would it be with just, oh, those backs. Those backs, though, are... They don't match the deck at all. Again, no offense to the deck creator intended. It's just, this is such a really soft, beautiful, really calm and inviting sort of energy and artwork in this deck. And then you flip it around and it's like, bam, have some yellow. That's just a me thing. This is actually thin enough that I could actually probably reback it, but it is larger than a standard tarot because there is an entire 5th suit. But I'm kind of just like, I don't know, what do I want to do? Do I want to just take it down to the artwork? Because, oh, that would be really beautiful. Like, just to have these beautiful works of art on the table. But again, with this having a very unique structure, like some of them are real, like that would be pretty apparent to me. That is the 4 of feathers, right? But I would be losing that keyword. However, the keywords are in the guidebook. So... But then I was like, if I took the titles off, then I could round it with the large corner rounder and it would be these beautiful art cards. So I'm a little like, I stopped the mod so that I could think about it and that I could maybe just spend some time looking through it like this with how the setup that I have with just the titles at the bottom. If this were a standard 78 tarot, I would probably just do like I did with the tarot at the end of the rainbow, and I would just probably make some little numerical numbers somewhere. Some of them are like, I would probably recognize like the major arcana. I would probably recognize a lot of the minors. I would probably recognize, but it's that additional suit that I think would, here it is. It's the suit of lotuses. While I really like the suit of lotuses in this deck, I don't know that I would immediately think of that. Also the quartz. I don't know that the quartz would immediately come to mind if it's completely borderless. But like the artwork would be so stunning. Like I really wish the deck creator would create this deck at this size. I'm good with this size on this cardstock, but just make it borderless because this art is so pretty. I would love to see it so much bigger. So yeah, but that's just a very me thing. Anyway, point being, what do y'all think? Should I chop the bottom and just go completely borderless with just this art, or should I just leave it as is, take the gold off the bottom, round it, and call it good? So let me know in the comments below, because I'm just kind of like, I don't know which way I want to go. So I'll let you all tell me what you think. I do have videos, I think, on this project. I bought the Akashic Tarot. Long story short, I bought it. I had some issues with it, and so then I started collaging over the top of it. I bought another one to continue this project. Like every time Hay House had their like $10 sale, right? That's when I would grab it, because I wanted the backs to all match. I actually have several different projects in here. This is kind of ridiculous, but we're just gonna do a quick little chat about the deck projects, the other deck projects that I have going on, not counting the decks that I'm like actually drawing and making myself, because like that's a whole nother road that we're not gonna go down today. These are, I clearly have copyright. Oh my goodness, copyright. Like, okay, it's over the Tangled thing. Anyway, I bought a cheap pack of Tangled playing cards, like kids cards at the dollar store, to just craft over the top of, because they're nice and big, and like they give me a nice space, and they're nice and, you know, sturdy. So anyway, I made some like art cards. Actually they're kind of like Oracle, I guess. And this is just me paper crafting and playing. That one I didn't even put a title on. That one I didn't put a title on either. So that was one little project that I had been working on. Another project that, there's so many of these. This is more than one Akashic Tarot deck. So there's two, and like not two complete, but two decks in here. I started this project like 4 years ago maybe, and I do have some videos on me creating these. And the only reason that I keep putting them on buying the Akashic Tarot, like no offense to that creator, I do actually own the Akashic Tarot, like an unmodified version of it. So I don't mean any disrespect in that way, but I started it on this, and if you look, like this way all the backs match for my own personal oracle. So that's the main reason why I've kept on with this, but like it's no offense against the Akashic Tarot. I had some issues with it when I first got it. I got over it. Now I have a copy of it and it's fine. But because I started on this, I wanted to keep going on the same cardstock, the same card back, the same size and all that. So thus the reason. Anyway, back to my projects. This is gonna be a super long video. I started making oracle cards, and there is just a hodgepodge of cards in here. I will just do a really quick flip through. Some of them I haven't even finished yet. There's one in here that has a misspelled word in it. Some of them are from 4 years ago. Some of them are from just a few months ago. So this is a project that I've been working on for a really long time. These ones, I actually put clear contact paper over the top of them to like preserve them. That works really well. I kind of wish I'd scanned them into my computer before I did that, but I should still be able to scan it. And these are just like, yeah, collaged cards. Some of them have titles, some of them don't. There's the one that I spelled wrong. Totally cool. I can fix it. And yeah, it's just a fun like paper crafty collagey like project to do whenever like I just feel like I want to sort of paper craft, but I don't want to do like a journal page. So I'll just pull out one of these and I will just do some paper crafting on it, and I just add to this ridiculously huge pile of cards I've got going on here. This is one of my favorite ones. These were some of the very, very first ones I did. And you can see that like some of them have like printed titles, some of them have stuff I wrote on them. It's just kind of, again, a mixture. And then here's more that haven't been, like these are more recent and haven't been covered up yet. But anyway, that's just a fun like oracle project that like, look how many there are. That's so funny. I have extra stuff in here too because I'm still working on some. That's just a fun project that I do whenever I need to, like, I just want a paper collage, but I don't like want to do a whole like spread in my journal or something like that. So I just grab some of these extra cards. I have another box with ones that aren't done yet. And I, you know, just do some collaging. The next one that I'm going to show you is, I keep it in my extra Sacred Traveler box, but that's not what this is. I'm actually not going to mention the deck that I did this on, because the last time I did this, I had to actually remove the videos. So I'm not going to name the deck. I had to actually remove the videos that I had made of me paper collaging over this deck, because I got so many hateful messages from people. And it was just not worth it. But I do have the deck back out so that I can finish working on this. So the main images that were used in the deck are underneath, and then I paper collaged over the top. Most of these, or some of them, again, I've covered with clear contact paper, so they're very, very shiny, to kind of keep it sealed and to keep them from you know, from being peeled up. But my intention is to eventually finish this one and then just like scan it and put it on like make playing cards or something, so I can get like a actual working copy of it. But it's been a lot of fun to do this project, to work on it. Again, it's just the same thing as the other deck. I'm just kind of using an existing deck as the base. Now, also having said that, I'm not using any images that are copyright. All of these images are out of copyright, and so like thus the reason the original deck creator was able to use them. So I feel fine about this whole project, but I just got tired of dealing with people's hateful comments, so I just took the videos down. But these are just public domain images, so you can do this with any sort of imagery like this. But I'm really looking forward to picking this project back up and finishing it. Like several of them are still like need some words on them. This one I still need to finish. So I've pulled this one back out. I haven't done any additional work on it since the very first time I started it, but I've got it back out because I would like to continue to work on it, because I have a good, I don't know, probably 30, 40 cards in here that I want to do this with. So I think it'll be fun, but it's pretty time consuming. So like it's something that I got to work on here and there. But there, let's do that. Okay, so some decks I edged, trimmed, decks I'm crafting, things of that nature. I thought it would just be fun to kind of touch base with these types of projects as well. Sometimes I forget to make videos on them because I'm just like kind of hanging out doing my thing and I don't think to turn the camera on, or sometimes I'm just like, it's a lot of work to make a video, so I just want to kind of sit and have some crafty time. But I'm definitely looking forward to finishing this one and looking forward to working with these two as soon as they're dry. As always, you'll find links for whatever I can link in the description box below. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.